Alrighty, g'day guys. Welcome back to StatChat Sports. You're here with myself and Tazza. Josh is here as well on the call. No face cam. He's out in the middle of nowhere in his slippers.
Yeah, you don't
He's
want to
just
see
here
his
in.
face, mate.
He's here in spirit with us. No BT today, couldn't make it, but this is our first. This is going to be our first World Cup podcast. At the time of recording, we're only a couple of weeks out. This weekend is the last weekend of league action for most of the leagues out there, and then after that, I believe it starts next week. Is the first game.
20th of November, pretty
20th
sure.
of November, it's first game.
Yep.
So yeah, it's perfect timing for us to have a little look at what's to come and give a few thoughts and predictions for the upcoming World Cup. So I basically started off. It's been a topic of debate around the footballing world ever since the World Cup was basically announced. Obviously, World Cup has always been in the off season. Typically, it's always been sort of end of June, beginning of July is when the World Cup has been. And this year it's smack bang in the middle of the season, and it's in November and December. So it's an odd one, but Josh,
Carnage.
it's carnage. Josh, as a
Absolutely
neutral, I know
ridiculous.
you don't watch as much football as Tazza and I, but I want to hear your thoughts on how you see this, because it's an odd decision.
Well, first off, let's just be blunt here. It shouldn't be in Qatar because it was all fraudulent. They had all the under the table deals. It shouldn't be there anyway. A lot of corruption going on. It's definitely the wrong place at the wrong time. It's too hot. It's thrown all the footballing competitions out across the world. Nonsense decision from FIFA. But we are there. It's got to go on. We're all excited it's going to happen. But yeah, geez, they really could have planned it a bit better, couldn't they?
Mm.
I think it's a poor decision.
Yeah, well, we are all excited, but I feel like there's been a lot less hype in the build up to this. You know, the regular season ends. You got about a month's break towards the lead up towards the World Cup starting, and obviously in that time there's no football, so everyone's itching, ready to go. Whereas we're literally going to see the Premier League game this week, and then the very next week the World Cup is starting. I feel like there's been no sort of build up and hype towards it, Tazza.
Yeah, it's pretty disappointing. It's pretty lackluster. I mean, if this was being held in Europe, even going back to the Qatar, if it was being held in Europe, I dare say there would be a lot more hype. Europe would be a buzz if it was a multi country host. I mean, it would still be a buzz. But yeah, I completely agree. The fact that there's no time given to generate the buzz and to develop that excitement, it's really flying under the radar, this one. And unless you're a huge football fan, I highly doubt that many people it's really crossed their mind. I mean, I like my football, but yeah, it seems like a bit of an afterthought, sort of compared to league football for me at the moment.
Question for you, Steve. I mean, do you think the players are going to come in and be fitter and more ready to go than they would be if it was the off season? Or do you think, like, we've got a few players that are coming in with injury clouds that they've picked up during the regular season? Like, how do you think it's going to go?
I wouldn't necessarily say that the players are coming in any more or any less fit than what they would be, because if players knew they were going to the World Cup, then they wouldn't be tending to take a sort of large break at the end of the season before the World Cup anyway. But the facts that you mentioned injuries, and I wanted to talk about it anyway. The injuries is the biggest thing that has almost ruined the World Cup before it's even begun. There are so many big names of world-class players that are missing out on the World Cup purely because they've picked up an injury that sees them miss out on a month's football. Some of them longer, but even still, a month's football that happens to be smack bang in the middle of the season, where if the World Cup was when it was normally, they wouldn't be missing it and it would be no problems. You know, I'm pretty sure Jamie Carragher said on a Sky Sports podcast that you pick up a 2-week injury now, you're just about as a certainty to miss the World Cup. Whereas, you know, if you picked up that same injury at the end of the season, you would have time to recover and still prepare yourself for the World Cup. So it's ridiculous. Like I just roll off a couple of names here. These are some of the biggest names in world football who won't be at the World Cup, and that's what the makes the World Cup so good. Is you've got all the best players in the world all there. These players aren't here. Paul Pogba, Kante, Timo Werner, Reece James for England, recent one, Diogo Jota for Portugal. You know, these guys are staples for their nation. Some of the best players in their country, and they're not going to be there. And I mean, there's plenty of others as well that are on the fence. You know, Ben Chilwell, another fullback for England, Heung-min Son, arguably South Korea's best player. Alphonso Davies picked up a potential injury at the weekend. Lukaku, Dybala, Kyle Walker, Calvin Phillips, Araujo, Di Maria. The list goes on and on and on. And like, you know, these aren't fringe players. These are players that make a massive difference to these nations. And they're just not going to be there. They're going to miss out. Some players will go to 1, 2, no World Cups in their careers. So the fact that some of these guys are missing out on a World Cup because of the time that it's been placed is just ridiculous.
I'll tell you what, Steve, we're doing a bloody good job of hyping up this World Cup, aren't we? Jeez. You've come straight in, first 5 minutes, absolutely torn it to shreds.
Coming, guns blazing, waste of time. No, look, I'm sure once it all, you know, obviously starts and everything like that, then, you know, all this sort of stuff will probably go out the window and everyone will enjoy watching it. But, you know, these are issues that have been around since it was, you know, announced being in Qatar, and then the fact that they changed it and moved it to mid-season. These sorts of issues and stuff like that have been around since then. So it's nothing new. You know, that we knew there was going to be injury issues and concerns. It's just a case of, you know, who was unfortunate to pick it up. You know, and I think Messi had a bit of a scare at the weekend. I think he's fine, but I don't know if he went off, but he was definitely down for a bit. So, this is his last World Cup. You know, imagine Messi misses his last World Cup because he picked up a small niggle that keeps him sidelined for 2 weeks. You know, yes, he might be able to come in halfway through the World Cup, but without Messi, if Argentina struggle, don't even get out of the group, there you go. That's his tournament done. So, yeah, it's just a bit silly. Let's look at let's move on from the rants. And let's start looking into some predictions.
Here we go.
The group winners. Obviously, we got 4 groups. There'll be 4 group winners. Obviously, 2 from each group will go through. But we'll start at the top. Group A: Qatar, Ecuador, Senegal, and the Netherlands. Probably a bit of a foregone conclusion, but you know, can we see anybody besides the Netherlands winning this group?
Look, Senegal's a bit of a dark horse. They've shown in recent in World Cups before that they're no pushovers, but I mean the Netherlands should be too strong, surely.
Yeah, well, Senegal, current African Cup of Nations holders as well. That definitely accounts for something. Can we see Qatar getting any points on the board?
No.
No.
Yeah, I'm with you, Josh. No way.
I don't think so. I think they go 0 for 3, and are straight out. I mean, that's what happens. But that's another thing. It's a different issue. But I mean, the host nation obviously goes straight in. I don't think Qatar. I'd be pretty confident to say Qatar's never been to a World Cup before. You know, couldn't name you a player from Qatar. So, you know, they're going out.
You will be able to in a couple of weeks' time, Steve. Household names.
Possibly.
National heroes.
Group B, fellas. England, Iran, USA, and Wales. I don't think this is going to be as straightforward as what I think people potentially think it could be. Obviously, the glaringly obvious one there is England. Runners up in the Euros.
Make it hard.
Yeah.
They love to make it hard for themselves.
Especially in a World Cup.
Yeah.
I think England gets through. I think they still finish top of the group. I think the interesting battle here is the battle for second spot. I think Wales and USA are both pretty evenly matched, wouldn't you say, fellas?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
It'd be a tough one. There's, each side has just some solid names. I'd say probably Wales tip it just for me. Just. I think they've got a few more players in the bigger leagues in the world, the Premier League, even the Championship is bigger than the MLS. It just is. I don't care what anybody says. So, I think Wales probably just tip it for me, but it'll be close. It'll be close, but I don't think it'll be as straightforward. England won't win all three of their games. I'll put it that way. Not for me.
Oh
anyway.
no. They'll find a way to drop one.
Group C: Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Poland. Any arguments on Argentina?
No, they'll romp that one. They'll romp it through.
Yeah, no arguments from me. Argentina's getting through.
Yep.
Yeah, you'd have to think probably Poland with the advantage for the second spot, but again, it could be pretty open there.
I did see something. I actually saw a TikTok literally about an hour ago before we jumped on here about Saudi Arabia. Apparently, Saudi Arabia are having 8 international friendlies in the lead up to the World Cup. They have essentially stopped their national league already and have done for a while. And basically all of their players in their national team are already together and have been or will be playing up to 8 friendlies in the lead up to the World Cup. So that is something that's a pretty big advantage that they'll have over any other national team. No other national team will be able to do that. How much of a difference it makes, it kind of remains to be seen. But it's could potentially count for something.
There's a big skill element that they're going to have to climb there. I mean, all the preparation in the world, it'll definitely do them some good. Don't get me wrong, but there's a big hill to climb in terms of skill. There's Mexico and Poland. I don't think that's a foregone conclusion. I think that's a very good battle for second spot in that group. I think Poland with the firepower of Robert Lewandowski is probably where you give the edge, but Mexico's not pushover by any means.
No, and what's the keeper's name? Ochoa. He tends to show up in the big occasions in the world stage, so he basically turns himself into prime Neuer at these sort of.
He shows up every 4 years.
He does,
and he just does a job, and he's like, where has he been for the last 4 years? Every time.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, it'll be a tough one. Tough one for second place there, but Group D, the fellas nation: Australia, France, Denmark, and Tunisia. Second World Cup in a row that France have been lucky enough to draw Australia. They beat us in the last one. I think France breezed through this, to be perfectly honest. Can't see anyone putting up. I mean, Denmark are a good side as well. But I actually think in the last World Cup, it was France, Australia, and Denmark all in the same group as well.
It was.
Yeah. I can't remember who the other nation was, but yeah, those 3 sides in the same group again.
Might have been Peru.
Yes,
you could be right. Yep. Yeah, it was Peru.
It was Peru.
Yeah. So not all that different from Tunisia in a way, but those same 3 nations in the same group, 2 World Cups in a row. I think we'll probably see the same result: France and Denmark to go through.
Yeah, probably the easiest group to pick. I think this one.
Yeah. Do we think Australia will be able to get any points here?
Oh, they might scrape a draw against Tunisia, but I'm not putting out much hope of that.
I don't know. Denmark, they're not a world beater. I mean, play the right way, and I think they might be able to steal a point. But obviously, their best opportunity comes against Tunisia. And on Peru, if we didn't get in, Peru were also in the reckoning for that spot. So it could have been Peru, France, Denmark too. So it's quite unreal how that worked.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think last World Cup we didn't do too badly against both France and Denmark. They lost them both, but I think they only lost 2-1 to France, and that was to a late-ish penalty. but I feel like it's a substantially weaker national team for Australia than it was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
across the board.
yeah, definitely. So it's a tough ask for the Aussies, but I mean, to be fair, they only just sort of just scraped it anyway. So it's not been as convincing as previous World Cups for them anyway. So Spain, Costa Rica, Germany, and Japan in Group E. It's a tough choice between Spain and Germany, I think, as to who will top the group.
Yeah, that's you got to feel for Spain there. It's not Spain, sorry, Japan. They're kind of squeezed out by two giants there, but I give it to Germany. I think, yeah, I don't think Spain's the team that we've kind of come to know them as in the last couple of World Cups. They're young, they're probably younger. They've got some young stars, but the days of Xavi and Iniesta are long gone. That Busquets, that dominant midfield.
Well, won it in 2010, didn't make it out the group stages in 14, and then they were knocked out in the round of 16 by Russia, I believe, in 2018. So since they won it in 2010, pretty underwhelming.
Yeah, they're not the force that they once were. So I'd say Germany winning this one.
I'd agree. Josh, I know you're going to come up and say Costa Rica's going to win the group.
No, I like Germany as well. Germany from Spain, and like you said, a bit stiff for Japan, but that's one of those things. Sometimes you get stuck with a bit of a dicey group, a bit like Group F. That is a tantalising group right there.
Yeah, it is. Speaking of Group F, obviously Belgium, Canada, Morocco, and Croatia. Belgium, who for a while and for a little bit of a period there were the number one ranked national team. Croatia, runners up last World Cup. I think Belgium still take it over Croatia. Canada, Morocco, can't see them making too much of a push for second spot either, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah,
we'll touch on Canada a bit later, Steve.
Alrighty.
Hello.
Alrighty. Okay. Speak no more on Canada.
Canada, they just depend on Davies, Alphonso Davies now. I think he'll play a part.
Well, they do also have Jonathan David up front.
Yeah. I think he's Canadian. Is it Weston McKennie? Is he?
No, he's
Canadian,
American.
or is he American?
He's American. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean Belgium win this at a canter, but second spot probably goes to Croatia, but on their day, any of the other two could steal points.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. Group G: Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland, and Cameroon.
This is a fun group.
This is a fun group. It's a three-way battle for second spot. I don't think there's any doubt that Brazil don't win this 3 from 3. But you could make a case for any three of those remaining nations for second spot there.
Yeah. Serbia, Switzerland, Cameroon. Yeah, they've all got. None of them speak crazy amounts of volume of talent. But they're all plucky. I mean, if any of them show up, they're there. They're absolutely there.
Is there anyone there that sort of jumps out at you?
I mean, usually it's up to Zerdan Shaqiri, the Swiss master. he usually shows up on the international stage.
Yeah, and he does.
Then you wonder where he ends up at club level. But look, I'll probably give it to Serbia. I think.
Well, okay.
Serbia's probably where I go.
Yeah, I like Switzerland personally. Still, they've got a lot of talent. Still, I mean, Xhaka's probably playing the best football of his career at the moment. Jan Sommer in the nets is one of the better goalkeepers in the Bundesliga. So, yeah, there's a couple of players in that side, but I mean, Serbia's a top shout too. They've got plenty of high-rated international footballers that play for high clubs, and that could easily make a push too, for sure. Finally, Group H. There's every year, every World Cup, there's a group of death. I think this could be the group of death for me. Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, and Korea. I won't say too much because obviously I think the obvious choice is Portugal, but we know Portugal like to make things difficult in a World Cup environment. And honestly, all four of the heavily lying on Heung-min Son's availability, I think, for Korea.
Mm. Yep.
If he misses out, they'll struggle. If he makes it, they could well and truly make a push. But I think you could make a case for any four of those teams.
Ooh, yeah. You got to go with Portugal. They're definitely deeper than any of those other teams. So I don't know if Ghana are as quite as strong as they have been in years gone by.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Korea with Son, anything could happen there. He's just an absolute star, and I mean, I think Uruguay. It should be Portugal, Uruguay. I do get that those two teams can be anything, but Uruguay should have too much again.
Yeah, they Uruguay do have a lot of talent. You know, Bentancur and Fede Valverde in the middle, and of Darwin Nunez up top. You know, I don't think Luis Suarez would have made the
no, I don't think so.
Can't imagine he would have. You know, they're missing a centre back in Araujo for Barca who's been injured too. But yeah, it's a tight knit group for sure. I think you know, Josh, are you seeing Portugal here too, or are you seeing somebody else?
No, I like Uruguay. I think Portugal, Uruguay go through, but I like Uruguay, I think, to come out on top of this one.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. Interesting.